The Jolt. This is The Jolt with Larry Flick on Sirius XM OutQ.
Sister Sledge with He's the Greatest Dancer. It is Friday, old school Friday, December 19th. I'm Larry Flick, and this is The Jolt on Sirius XM OutQ. Our toll-free number is 866-305-6887. And as I mentioned, we are joined by Carl Sandler, our relationship expert. He is the proprietor of the Mr. app and Daddyhunt, which is now in website and app form. You can add both of those to your smartphone or to your tablet. And he writes for the Huffington Post, and he keeps busy. How are we doing?
We're doing great, Larry.
What's happening?
How are you?
Good.
Yeah?
Really good, yeah. It's been a good week. I'm tired, though.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm ready to go home.
Maybe Keith will give you a massage.
No.
Wake you up.
Wait. Ew. I mean, you're very cute, Keith, but no.
All right, then I'll have to get on the phone to Killian James from
No, that's all right. He already offered me for a freebie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
I
good
passed.
for you.
With reluctance, I passed. Not really my type, but he's very pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Killian James is the rent boy who was here yesterday.
Right on.
Yeah, he was good. It was good. He was very sweet. He is very beautiful, but not my type. Yeah, I like a little more.
Rough around the edges.
Yeah, a little less boy, a little more man. Yeah.
I hear you.
But he's beautiful and sweet and really smart. I enjoy all of that.
Yeah.
So what's going on in your world?
Well, my world. So I don't know if did you see the Daddyhunt videos that we launched?
Yes, they're very good.
Thank you. Yeah, they kind of blew up, and they got picked up all over the place, and lots of people. We had tens of thousands of downloads just this past week, so it was really good. People liked them. They responded to them. So it's not every day that you get to put something out there and then people really love it. So it was great. Felt good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's good. Because the daddies had been clamoring, even with Mr. App, we tried to include the daddies, but they kind of got a little lost, and because there were so many young people just coming in, and so many people, so the daddies were just like, listen, we want our own place, and so that's why we launched the Daddyhunt app, and so it's been good, and the response has been good, and it's definitely like a more targeted group of people coming in, so we're very excited. It's good.
Very good. Very exciting.
Yeah,
very exciting. And so what's on your mind this very Friday?
So, all right, so I thought about it, and I realized that I needed to bring up, I think, the holidays and what I call homo for the holidays, which is, all the stress and the challenges that so many of us face around the holidays. And it can be things around our families and how do we, integrate with our families and, be ourselves at the same time that we're part of a family. And I think that's very hard for a lot of gay guys, whether you're out or you're not out, whether you have a boyfriend, whether you're visiting your boyfriend's family. I mean, I think that there's a lot of issues. And then, of course, there's a lot of issues around being single around the holidays, or even being in a relationship and feeling single. I think that there's just a lot of expectation to have holidays be spectacular, right? To have them be good, to have them be, especially in the gay world, I want to go to Miami, I want to go here, I want to, have a really great time with my family. I want to, people have a lot of expectations about what they should be, and a lot of times they fall short. So I wanted to talk through, first some strategies and some things that I've learned in my own life about how to make the holidays, if not bearable, actually successful, especially when you have to deal with your family or with people that you're not used to dealing with on a daily basis. And how to also kind of address and handle some of the issues and doubts that come up around the holidays, around your own life and your own relationship status and the things that are going on. And this is an area in particular where I have struggled tremendously over the years.
Have you?
I'd say it's probably like one of the areas that I've had to work the hardest at in my life. I come from what's called a confluent family. So I have a very kind of old school Jewish Holocaust survivor family. So it's almost like a Chinese family or a family that works in unison, where everyone kind of does the same thing. And it's the exact same group of people that come to every holiday, and they have a certain way of being. And they don't really, at least traditionally, they didn't really value individuation in the family. So being gay was extremely hard for them to accept because it just didn't fit into the way that their family unit worked. And this was going back many, many years. And I had to struggle for well over a decade, probably even longer, 15 years, to get to a place where I could go to a family event and feel like I could be myself. I could feel comfortable with myself. I wasn't worrying about being accepted by others, but yet I had gotten to a place where I could leave the event and not feel drained, where I could leave and feel filled up and happy to go.
That's really good, because I never got to that point. In fact, it was after one too many Christmases of leaving feeling like I lost the will to live, quite honestly and thoroughly, that I began the process of breaking off from my family.
And I think that is a normal process for a lot of gay people.
Yeah,
I think that
agree.
whether they do it physically or emotionally, right? A lot of us go to our family events and we just suffer through it, right? We do it for one particular member, maybe our mom or our dad, or to see someone, but we're not really participating and taking away from the experience something that makes us feel really good and amazing. And that's a very high bar. And I never in my entire life, or never for many, many years, ever thought I could get to that place. And even now, sometimes obviously it's challenging because you've got 50 different people at the same time. But I think that family events or dealing with your family is a little bit like planning a good theme party or a good dinner party. You know, preparation is everything. And there's lots of ways that you can prepare for making your event successful. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm going to share some of the strategies that I've used and developed and honed over time to figure out how do I not just survive my family, but actually thrive in being with my family.
And I think all that's super valuable. I can't wait to hear what you're saying. But I would want to personally add that sometimes it's okay to say, I'm just not going to do it.
Absolutely.
And that has to be okay as well. That was the ultimate decision I made for myself. Is it's okay. Just like I love this time of year. Christmas is one of my absolute favorite times of year, even though it's always, from boyhood, been fraught with drama on one level or another. And as my karma or as fate would have it, I wound up partnered with someone who really doesn't get Christmas, doesn't like Christmas. He's not a faith-based person, so he can't even get with the more kind of spiritual aspects of it. He just doesn't really get it. He's giving it a really good go this year for me, as a gift to me, but it's generally not his thing. And even still, even when I've been disappointed when we haven't done Christmas, I believe that sometimes you just have to say, it's okay. I let you off the hook. I let myself off the hook. I can just have a really nice day, order a Chinese, and watch a movie, and that's okay, regardless of what everyone's face says when I tell them what I'm doing that day.
Absolutely.
And I think so long as people understand that that's on the menu of options, I think there's a thorough strategy to get out.
Absolutely. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but I think what you're speaking to, for me, or the important thing about that is to be able to understand, or maybe this is the goal, to understand what it is that you can get out of being with your family or not, right? If you can't get anything out of it, if you can't figure out for yourself consciously why you're going and what you want to get out of it, and it can just be simply, I love my mother, or I love so-and-so, and I want to show up for her because if I don't, I'll feel so guilty and she'll be hurt. And that's the only reason I'm going. I don't care about anything that happens because the thing that I'm getting out of it is I don't have to feel guilty about it for the next 3 weeks afterwards, right? Or maybe I'm going because I want to see my crazy aunt so-and-so who I only get to see at family time, and she's older, and I'm going and my main purpose is to connect with her, to see her, to give her a hug, and then to get the fuck out of there, right? It's so important. It's very hard to do for some reason because we just do it out of obligation, right? And sometimes we dread it. But for me, one of the most powerful things in my life has been to really figure out what it is that I get out of doing some of the family things that I did in the past.
Yeah.
And once I understood that or understand that, I think it's much more possible to tolerate it because you understand why you're doing it. You're not doing it for someone else. You're doing it for yourself.
Well, so long as you can find something in there for yourself.
Yes.
And I think for me, I stopped being able to see anything I got out of it.
And that happens sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely happens, and I think one of the things I find fascinating, and I've learned a lot in the nearly 12 years. This is my 12th Christmas season on the radio, and one of the things I've learned in those 12 Christmases is gay people are mad about this time of year. They're mad, by and large, because they feel rejected by churches that they say they don't want to be a part of, but you're kind of saying you're a little too mad to say you don't care. You care. Everybody wants to say, I don't care, but you really still want an invitation to the party that you can gracefully decline, right? So people are mad about that because they feel rejected by the church. They feel mad because they have to worry about the rejection of their family or relive the rejection of their family. I think gay people often feel very hostile, and it's certainly for many it's a very fair emotion. For me, I just decided I like this time of year, so I just decided I was going to start concentrating on the things I like, and I'll start doing some of the rejecting, which is I reject my family, I reject your judgments, I reject everything. That comes when you get old. But when you're younger, it's harder. It's way, way harder. And so people are really mad. We're going to hear what Carl's strategies are as we continue here on The Jolt. There's nothing like a gorgeous glass of champers. Right, Carl?
Oh, absolutely. I love it. In fact, I've been drinking this morning already. Finished half a bottle.
Just talking about how poor Carl's information was sold to the wrong company.
Wouldn't it be funny if I was the one who found out I did it?
Yeah, I know. Did you ever think that maybe you were at some event and some really hunky guy said, I work for ... and the next thing you know, you're giving them your details?
Let me tell you, I've done a lot more for a lot less.
You didn't get any ass or dick, but you got on the mailing list. That's happened to me. BTW. That was the OJs with a great song from 1976. I'm Larry Flick, and you're listening to The Jolt on Sirius XM OutQ. It's 20 past the hour on this old school Friday, December 19th. Carl Sandler of the Mr. app and Daddyhunt.com and Daddyhunt app. Add those both to your smartphone or your tablet. He's also a writer for the Huffington Post, and he's our resident relationship expert, and he is going to unfurl even, some strategies for being one of the letters L, G, B, or T and getting through the holidays. What you got?
All right. So as I started to say, I think the key is to strategize and to plan ahead. If you really are someone who's dreading being with your family, let's just talk about that for now. Someone who just wants to go or is roped into going to spend time with their family, then I think here are some strategies that I've used in the past that I think help you. And, again, it's a little bit like a battle. You need to have allies. You need to have a plan of attack. You need to have an escape route. So the first thing actually that I did was to find a wingman or a wingwoman. So what does that mean? That means think about who in your family, if you have someone, maybe it's a sister, maybe it's an aunt, maybe it's someone you can basically talk to ahead of time and say, listen, I'm struggling to survive the holidays. It's too much. I'm not looking forward to it. Whatever that is, I want you to be my partner in crime. You sit next to each other. When your uncle makes a racist joke, you can squeeze each other's hands. You can, someone who gets it, who you can rely on, and who can basically be there and be your support network. And I always had it. My sister was since I came out and I was 17, even though she was 5 years younger than me, she was always forever my partner in crime. But I didn't really see her that way or didn't understand it till I was a little bit older in life. And now, no matter what family event I go to, she understands it because she's part of my family. She understands the dynamics. I can always rely on her for anything. And I can say, Danielle, I need you to take me out of this place. I am ready to go. You need to, leave your kids with your husband and drive me away. Whatever it takes, and she'll be there for me. So I think if you have someone, if you're lucky enough to have someone in your family, and if not, if you're able to bring someone with you. But again, the goal is that they are there to help you get through it. They're there, so if you need to take a break, you can be like, let's go take a walk around the block, and smoke a cigarette or whatever you're going to do, and take your time and your place. So I think that it can be really, really useful. Another strategy, which I think is very hard for LGBT sometimes because we all come from different parts of the world and we come from places where there might be the topics of conversation, just might not be things that you're going to talk about with your friends when you're living in Chelsea. And people might talk about politics. They might talk about gay rights. They might talk about all sorts of things that they should not talk about. And my, general feeling is that you should try to avoid politics at all costs if you can. Doesn't mean you have to laugh at jokes or you have to participate, but as much as possible to try to stay aloof. And, you're not there at the holidays to really engage with these people. You're not going to change their minds necessarily just by being with them and being part of that community. And I think that that's very, very hard. And it's not just politics. It can be any issue that you feel is something that you really, really care about, but in a larger group of your extended family, they might not share your same issues. And it doesn't mean that you have to be completely silent. You can say, hey, I find that offensive or whatever that issue is. But engaging in political conversations, engaging in talking about Ferguson, talking about the Middle East, talking about Hillary in 2016, whatever those political issues or hotbed issues, like that's not. It's not going to help you survive the holidays. It's just going to get you riled up. It's going to get you upset. And as much as possible, talk to people, keep the conversation very light. You're just there to connect. You're not there to, and I think, this comes up in so many issues because I have so many friends who they don't see their family because their family's very conservative or their families, maybe they don't all accept gay rights or they're disapproving. And that's hard. It's very hard to take. But I think if you're just trying to get through and you're trying to survive the holidays, you have to try to figure out how to not have those heated conversations if at all possible.
I agree. Because there are times when I hear people say, I told my grandmother off, and I'm thinking, and so you accomplished what? Looking like a douchebag for yelling at an old lady? Because her point of view is not going to change. Your point of view is not going to change, and you pulled a douchebag move.
Yeah, it's very. The problem is that we bring to these events all of our pain, right? It comes to the surface. There's all the hurts and all the very real things that people have said and done over the years before we came out, or if we're in the closet, even as we're in the closet, and it just they come to the surface. They're just they're there, and every little comment feels like it's made and designed for you.
But don't you think that the real move should be to start, if this is a real problem for you, to start having these conversations in September, so that you know what you're walking into, right? So if you think, okay, I don't really want to deal with this nonsense, to have a talk with either the person who's saying things that you don't like early enough so you can say, listen, I'm giving some thought about whether or not I'm going to show up because this makes me uncomfortable when we get into this territory. So we should have a conversation about this, because if you're really stuck in this, then I think I'm going to make other plans. Or that's when you have to kind of like start laying down the groundwork early enough. Dealing with all this on December 19th feels like you've been too busy on whatever app you're trying to get your cock sucked on to deal with life.
You're absolutely right, Larry. I think that the more planning that you can do to think about what are the things that you need to make the event successful. Now, I mean, listen, you have many different listeners. Some of them are out, some of them are not out.
Right.
So everyone's in a different place. My personal belief is that if you can work towards being out and being yourself with your family, right? So meaning just showing up and participating in a family event and being the out gay person and being yourself and being able to participate, like that's change. That's real change that happens as families, extended families, even if people don't seem to accept you in the way that you want to be accepted or see you in the way that you want to be seen. Just by participating year after year, actually things change. They change for the next generation as well. My nephews, who are 5 and 8, they stayed over my house recently, and I had my boy stay over with me, and it was as if nothing. They didn't have any questions. They didn't even ask, right? Because it's been normalized. They've seen me as a gay man their entire lives. So that change happens slowly. It happens by seeing you live your life and seeing you participate in the family as a gay person. You don't necessarily have to, as you said, try to convince your grandmother to change her views. Her views, if she's not a stone cold person, her views are going to change because that's how we change over time. We change but we change in concert with other people. Very few people change by themselves. Right. It just doesn't happen. You just basically reinforce the exact same ideas.
But you also have to keep in mind that they're waiting for you to change. So if Grandma has dug her heels in the dirt and you've dug yours, you're not going to meet each other halfway. So I think that the other mistake that we make is we're adhering to the idea that I'm offended, therefore I'm right.
Right.
Doesn't mean you could be I could say something could really fuck you off. Doesn't mean you're right. I could be 100% right and I hit a raw nerve. So, your indignation doesn't buy you anything other than your emotion. So you mainly just have to own the fact that you're being as strident as the other people. And if neither of you if you can't put up with it, I don't see what the problem is. Go somewhere else. I mean, I don't mean to treat it so flippantly, but at the end of the day, none of these people are going to be there. You have your body, your being, yourself. Maybe that comes with nearly dying, right? When I was at the threshold of nearly dying a little more than a year ago, it occurred to me that even though I had my husband, I had Keith, I had some of the greatest people in my life near me, they all left at one point because they had to. And all I had was me. And that's very focusing. And no, you shouldn't have to go through that to understand that it doesn't even matter what fucking Nana, uncle, mom, and dad really think. It matters how you feel about yourself.
Absolutely. But to that point...
So if you don't like it, fuck it.
Right. But to that point, a lot of us, when we're with our families, they're not mono, they're not one unit, right? There are some people who accept us or that we want to be with or who we get love and joy from. And then there's other people who, because they're related to us, we somehow have to put up with them. My mother used to always say, oh my gosh, I would not choose I wouldn't choose all the members of my family, but that's who I have to go spend with because I want to see my mother and she invites all these other people. So, I think that families tend to be these things where you're not organized, unless you're the one throwing the party and organizing and deciding who gets to come. The reality is we all have people related to us who we may not choose to spend time with, but yet we have to somehow share a meal or share a weekend or a week with. And it's trying to understand and separate, for me, who I want to spend time with, why I'm there and why I'm going, and then understanding how to prioritize and spend my time with those people that I want to speak to. So at one point I remember I made a pact with myself. I was like, what, I'm going to go to this event, some event I didn't want to go to. Mm-hmm. I'm going to drive there with a zip car so that I can leave whenever I want. I'm not going to take the bus, right? I'm going to bracket my time, meaning I'm going to arrive late and leave early, right? So that I can be there for the core piece and say something ahead of time so my mother didn't stress, say, hey, Mom, I have something else going on. I'm going to arrive there right as you're sitting down to dinner. And I'm going to leave as soon as dessert's served because I have to be back. So set the expectations. You get in there. I said, these are the 5 people I really want to see. That's the reason that I'm going. I'm going to go for my mom. I'm going to give her the biggest hug possible. I'm going to go for this other person. I'm going to spend time with the kids. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And everyone else, I'm just going to, hey, how are you? It's good to see you.
It's a perfect plan.
Exactly. But you have to have a plan. Right?
You absolutely have to have a plan.
If you have a stressful family or if you are dreading spending time with your family, it's about coming up with a plan and identifying what you can do to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. But I will add on to that. You have to be grown. And being grown means not laying it on them at the last minute because you're too scared. Mm-hmm. It means very rarely do things pop up during this time of year.
Right.
Very rarely. This time of year, everything's put on the calendar months in advance. So it's not illogical or unreasonable to say, you know what? I already know that I have a couple things I need to do that same night. And I want to tell you now so that it doesn't surprise you.
Absolutely.
So that when you're in your emotional Christmas-like state, you're not thinking my baby's abandoning the family. And just so you know, maybe things will change. Give them a little fake hope. and just say, but this is the way it's going to be, so that by the time you're calling him and saying, Mom, I'll see you at 9, and I'm only going to be there till about 10:30, she's not going, what?
Absolutely.
Because again, you're the douchebag.
And you know what? And parents, I think that parents, just by their nature, have a lot of times trouble seeing you as someone separate from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They see you as, they just haven't, individuated from you as their parent. They think of you as being a child always. And part of, again, there are things that you can do. One thing that I did, which it can be immensely painful to your parents, but sometimes necessary, is you don't stay at home. You don't sleep. If you're going to them, you stay at a hotel.
Yeah.
You stay with a friend. It's your parents might kick and scream and say, I can't believe you're here. I never see you. You have to find a way to give yourself the support to be an adult and say, and you can make up whatever excuse you want. You can say, I need to have my own space. You can say, I want to give you guys space. I'm going to be here in the morning. I'll be here in the evening. It's
a great idea.
It costs money. It's hard to do, but if it's something that you need, think
It's a
about
great
it ahead
idea.
of time and give it to yourself,
And
even though it might be awkward.
You have to just agree within yourself that if you want to be treated like an adult, you have to act like one.
Absolutely.
Because that's the real problem. It's she won't respect me as an adult. You're saying that as you're stomping your foot like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm an adult. Are you sure about that?
Right. And, being an adult also means seeing your parents as adults.
Yeah.
And another strategy that, I have to say has really helped me with my family was when I was growing up, I think in some ways, or just because the nature of being a child, I saw my parents as a unit, right? Mom and dad. And a lot of times, even when I came out, they pretty much acted like a unit in rejecting me. But
They usually do.
yes, they somehow... They became more in solidarity than I'd ever seen them, I think, prior, when they were united in being like, in saying this is not okay at the time. I mean, now I have a good relationship with them. But one of the ways that I got to having a healthy relationship with my parents was to actually stop thinking of them as one unit and to start thinking, you know what, they're separate people with separate ideas. I can have a separate relationship individually with them. And I had to invest time in individually and separately reaching out to them and connecting to them and spending time. Sometimes they weren't thinking that, they weren't thinking about it strategically. They were just thinking, oh, let's all hang out and do this. But I realized that when we do that, I don't have an opportunity to ask my mother how she's doing and really listen to her response. And maybe she doesn't speak the same way as when my dad's around. And the same thing with my father, who feels maybe that my mother's more dominating and he doesn't have enough space to connect. And I actually even did this week, where my father and I have been we've been doing a project together the past month and a half, and I haven't really spoken to my mother, and I reached out to her directly, specifically because I said, you know what, I want her to make sure that she feels supported, that I'm thinking about her, and I'm caring about her, and I said, hey, I want to see you this week. When can we make time for us to hang out? Again, it can be very hard, and not everyone can. I haven't always had that relationship with my mother where I wanted to spend time with her. But I am at a place where I'm able to be aware that there's something that I need from my mother. Just time with her, right? Alone. And I reached out and I really expressed that to her. Now, this did not happen overnight. We're talking about many, many, many years of working on a relationship. But if you think about every time that you go home to spend with your family is an opportunity for you to learn about your family members, for you to show a little bit more about who you are for real, right? Maybe it's just a tiny bit. Doesn't necessarily have to be, if you're not out, coming out. It could be just sharing a little bit more of the life that you have been hiding with the people that you care about, and hoping and testing if they're able to take that up, if they're able to see you as an adult, if they're able to see you in a different way, if you're able to be more real with them. Because ultimately, I think that the healthiest families are ones where people are able to be with each other and actually be fully themselves, right? No, and so many of us as gay men and women have had to hide who we are for so long from our families. And we've done it maybe as a protection mechanism when we're growing up. Maybe we've done it out of our own fears and insecurities and inabilities to accept ourselves. But that ultimately, I can speak from my own experience, that my relationship has been healthiest with my family when I'm able to actually be me, be real, without hiding the things about who I am and what's making up my life from my family.
All right. Well, that's good stuff. Good stuff. We're going to continue with Carl Sandler here on The Jolt. Brenda Lee. There's nothing like a classic that was rocking around the Christmas tree. I don't know time getting it out. Rocking around the Christmas tree from 1960. I wasn't even born yet. At last, something older than me. I'm Larry Flick, and this is The Jolt on Sirius OutQ. Glad to have you visiting with us on this Old School Friday, December 19th. Keith Price is here, and we're also spending time this hour with our relationship expert and good friend, Carl Sandler. He is the proprietor of the Mr. app and Daddyhunt.com and the app. Both are available to put on your smartphone, your tablet, or you can go to Daddyhunt old school fashion by just going to the World Wide Web. It's very, very good. And we've been talking about home for the holiday strategies. And I still say the best strategy is order Chinese and watch a Golden Girls marathon on Netflix.
Well, I mean, actually, it's interesting that you say that. So I do think, I think that there are a lot of people who don't go. I mean, there are a lot of people who don't go home for the holidays, or who, for one reason or for many reasons, either maybe they don't have a family, maybe they don't want to spend time with their family, and but yet they're still the holidays. And for me, the holidays are an opportunity to connect to people that you care about, and it's an opportunity for you to have love in your life. Even if that love isn't from your family, it can be love from a partner, it can be love from your friends. And if you are someone who finds yourself feeling lonely during the holidays or feeling alone, maybe you feel that way because you're single, maybe you feel that way because you aren't connected to your family, then in the same way, it's to prepare and figure out ahead of time how to take care of yourself and support yourself through the holiday.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? That means maybe you throw a holiday party yourself. Maybe you have a small dinner with your favorite friends, and you plan that ahead of time. You make sure you figure out, who do you want to see and connect with? Who do you want to speak to and call that you're not going to be around? It's being proactive to think about what is it that you need to take care of yourself so that you feel good, or as good as you can be about yourself and about your life during the holidays, because it does give us a pause. We're not working. We're all so busy all the time. And so for me, holidays are an opportunity to say, who do I want to spend time with? How do I want to spend my time? And rather than complaining about it afterwards or experiencing, that loneliness, to try to say, what can I do to get through it and to have a successful holiday time? But
I think it's also necessary to make your own decision based on what your true desire is, and not based on peer pressure. Because for a number of years, when Shane was not able to come to America for one reason or another, I, about 4 years ago, went to our program director at the time and said, I think I just want to go on the radio those days. And he said, I think that's a terrible idea. Not because it wouldn't be great for the listeners, but because I think it might be really hard for you. Because ultimately, it's a very isolating experience. And I said, well, let me just do it. And there isn't a single person who didn't think it was nuts. And I'll tell you, those were some of the best Christmases of my life, because I was doing what I love. Just because it's not what you love doesn't mean it's not valid. And I got to be in a communal setting with some hardcore people who needed company. And we had the best Christmases. And so now it's part of my holiday ritual, even though Shane and I will be spending Christmas Day alone in our own quiet space. I'll come in on Christmas Eve and do what I love most, which is radio. And people think it's nuts, but it makes me happier than anything in the world. So you should just make sure that you're checking in with yourself and knowing that it's what you want to do versus what you're expected to do. Because you know what? You don't have to go see Aunt Mabel. And you don't have to go to your logical, you have the biological, you have your logical. You don't have to be pulled into that orphan dinner either, because that can be, I'm going to be real, double real. I've been to a couple of those orphan dinners. Sometimes it's more depressing to go see my parents, because all you have are a bunch of really angry people talking about how much they fucking hate Christmas, fucking hate their family, fucking hate, and pass the fucking gravy. And it's like, I think I'd have more fun sitting in the parking lot of White Castle alone. So,
Right.
I mean, you have to really check in with what's going to make you feel really good and give yourself a break, whatever that break may be.
Listen, I agree with you. I think the key is, everyone who's listening right now to stop and think, am I doing for the holidays, for whatever holiday event that you might have planned, if you have any, am I doing what I want to do? How can I make it better for myself? Do I not want to go and I want to do something alternative or go to work? That's fine. As long as you're consciously saying, I'm taking care of myself by doing this thing. I'm doing the thing that I want to do. But so many of us just do things out of obligation. And I'm not saying that we have to do every part of our life out of just our own needs. Sometimes we do things in order to be part of a family. But it's important to think through what are the things, what is it that you are getting out of it?
Right.
Why do you want to be part of that family? What does it mean to you? And then how can you get more love? How can you get more warmth out of that experience? And a lot of that really is, as I said, it's preparing, it's thinking ahead, it's planning some strategies. I used to have a strategy when I would go to family events where I literally ahead of time would prepare phrases of how I would get out of certain conversations or just get out of talking to people.
That's really good.
I had to literally, because I knew I had my grandparents were very old school, but they were very demanding. Mm-hmm. And they would unnerve me. I just couldn't give them the attention that they wanted, and it was very hard, and I had to figure out what am I going to say to get away from this person? Or I had some other relative that I just didn't want to talk to that would corner me. And I prepared these phrases, and I wrote them down so I could look at them and be like, okay, as soon as he comes over to me, I'm going to say the following. And again, it was about preparation. It was about figuring out how can I basically navigate the craziness of my family.
And the fact is, one thing that comes up that people are always a little threatened by, which is maybe you don't believe in God or the holidays, and you just think this is all a big shambles, and you don't want to participate in any of it.
And you have to honor that.
You have to create a route for yourself that says, this is December 25th. This isn't Christmas Day for me. This is December 25th. And that's allowed too.
It
and
is.
I'm going to have December 25th. It's going to be a Thursday, and I'm going to go this place for lunch and that place for dinner. And the great thing is, this December 25th, I don't have to work. Right. I have the day off. I'm going to get a seat on the train and, luxuriate in that, Sometimes
Absolutely.
The best, and again, I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy. I like family Christmases, and I'm really, really grateful that my husband is putting the effort in to make this a great holiday for me, because he knows how much I want it and how important it is to me. But I also think, there's great value in luxuriating in stepping off the treadmill, because all the lemmings are on that treadmill. Step off it. Walk your own rhythm. It's good.
I couldn't agree with you more, but I think that for a lot of people, they don't feel like they have permission to do that. They feel like they have a lot of obligations, a lot of ties emotionally or otherwise that make the holidays something different. And I totally support, obviously, if you're the kind of person who's able to do that, who's able to consciously say, hey, I choose not to do this. But I can talk in my own life from having, again, so many times that I would have wanted to cut the cord with my family and said, I don't want to participate at all. And I didn't know how to navigate in a way that made me feel good and healthy. Mm-hmm. But I know that our families can provide support and love for us in a way that sometimes isn't always as we want it to be or wish it to be. And it does take work and time and effort, and it involves investing in the relationship.
Yeah.
And that these holidays are actually opportunities for everyone to grow, and opportunities for you to become more of an adult, for you to be more authentic, opportunities for your family to see you as who you are. But these things don't happen naturally. They have to take, it has to be strategic. You have to actually think through, what do I want to accomplish? I want to show more of myself. I want to connect to these different people. I want to show up and participate and take something out of it. And I want to participate in a way that isn't just out of obligation, but is actually out of consciously.
Well, and you may need to just think how you handle the holidays is probably indicative of how you're handling the rest of your life. And if you have no control over the rest of your life, what makes you think you're going to have control over Christmas?
Very, very well said.
So use that as a New Year's resolution. Carl, thank you for coming to see us.
Thanks for having
It's always
me, Larry
a pleasure.
and Keith.
You should check out the Mr. app, the Daddyhunt app, daddyhunt.com. The apps are good for your smartphone and your tablet. Now, we want you to be sure to check out Feel the Spin, brand new edition starting today at 2 p.m. in the East, 11 in the West. How did I forget the time of my own show? Friday and Sunday, both days, brand new, 2 in the East, 11 in the West. Brand new holiday edition of Behind the Curtain with Keith Price, premiering tomorrow at 6 p.m. in the East and 3 in the West with an encore at 9 a.m. in the East and 6 a.m. in the West. And have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday.